Hey, what's up guys, TheOneOnly here. I'm back with another video, and today in this video we're going to be reviewing the Halo 4 McFarlane whatever it's called, the crawler thingamajig. The doggo. So here in the packaging you can see it's got this clear packaging so you can see the figure in the front. And in the back it shows you the other figures in the line, and shows you some of the Micro Ops figures. Not much to see here, so let's open it up and hop into the figure. Alright guys, so here I have the figure out of the packaging, and looking at the figure, it is chock full of articulation in some areas, and in other areas it has articulation but is pointless. You'll see what I mean when I get into the articulation. But first things first, let's talk about scale. So this is meant for the McFarlane Halo figure scale, which is smaller than the Mattel. So let's compare this to a Mattel Spartan. Here we have the Mattel Spartan next to the McFarlane Crawler. And it looks significantly smaller, especially compared to the Mattel Crawler. So why not get the two crawlers right next to each other, compare them side by side. Extending the legs to full length. Here we have the two crawlers side by side, and looking at them at their full extended height, they don't appear to have too much of a difference in scale. So the normal crawler stands about just under 4¼ inches to the top of its back, while the Mattel Alpha Crawler stands at about 4¾ From tip of the head to the tiny little tail, it's about 6¼ inches, while the McFarlane one is about 5¾ So yes, the McFarlane one is a little bit smaller, but it kind of works because this is an Alpha Crawler. That's a normal crawler. Now in game, there doesn't appear to be any difference within size between the different variants of the crawlers, but once again, it is in game, and the game doesn't really follow lore too much. I mean, looking at the in-game Spartan models next to Chief, there's no size difference. Meanwhile, that very last cutscene, Chief was towering over all the other Spartans, so plus in lore, so the game doesn't really follow any sort of lore or canon lore within size and whatnot. So this kind of works. Looking at the detail, I will say that the McFarlane Crawler does have more detail than the Mattel one. But that said, this was meant more for collectors, while this is actually meant to appeal to collectors and younger kids and whatnot. The Mattel has a softer sculpt, everything, lacking detail. Most of the detail in it actually comes from the paint, which doesn't really match up to how it should look. Meanwhile, the McFarlane one has both sculpt and the paint, making it pop out, full of details. So, let's talk about accessories. Alright, now let's talk about articulation. So the Mattel crawler here can open up its mouth, and so can the McFarlane one, but that's about as much as you'll get from the McFarlane one. The Mattel one has a ball joint and a swivel in its head and neck. Ball joint in the head, swivel in the neck. The McFarlane one has a hinge and a swivel in the head, and a hinge and a swivel in the neck. It has double ball jointed shoulders, and a hinge and swivel in the right here in the elbow. Right, back to it. So the Mattel crawler has a hinge and a swivel up here and a hinge in here, while the McFarlane has a hinge here and a swivel down here. Then the Mattel has a hinge right here in like the toes or whatever you want to call that, while the McFarlane one has basically has a wrist joint. It's got a swivel up here, a hinge in the middle, and a swivel down here. So far the McFarlane one is in the lead when it comes to articulation. And now moving on to the torso, the Mattel one has well, I guess that's technically a accessory. But yeah, so the Mattel one has a ball joint. I'm not sure if it's a double ball joint, but because I did not get the individual pieces. Anyways, it's got a ball joint here in the torso. Meanwhile, the McFarlane one has a hinge joint right there in the torso, which is very effective. Also has a swivel, which is also very effective. Moving on into the back legs, the Mattel has a hinge and a swivel. Well, yeah, there you go. Then it also has a hinge down here, swivel and a hinge in the hock, and a hinge in the ankle. McFarlane one has a very odd joint in the thigh or of the back legs. It's got a swivel and a hinge up here, but then it also has a swivel and a hinge down here on the same joint. Very odd. So it allows you to bring the leg down, bring it out. Allows you to even bring it forward if you need. It's really odd. Then it has a swivel and a hinge down here, which really only works as a swivel because you can't hinge it at all. No joint in the hock, and then a wrist joint in the ankle as well. So that's about it for this figure. I don't really know how to rate this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Would you recommend this to someone? Which one do you prefer, the Mattel one or the McFarlane? Do note that this Mattel also comes in the sniper variant, but we have not received a normal crawler from Mattel. Meanwhile, McFarlane has only made the normal crawler. We have not seen the other two variants. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you get this or that? Or would you get both? This has been the one and only, and I'll see you guys next time.